On the first day of spring, freedom is in the air. Signs of life, from restaurants to public events. Tonight, new freedoms are on the way. Rising anger in Sydney's hotspots. Mayors from Bankstown to Burwood unleash on the Premier. Australia dodges a recession as the Queensland Premier makes a staggering claim. Australia Post under pressure, the decision that could affect your delivery. And lay off Latrell, surprising support for the Rabbitohs star from Roosters coach Trent Robinson.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. Dining out, watching the footy and a trip to the shops could soon be on the table as early as October. Though we recorded 1,116 new cases, 7 million vaccines have now been delivered. The important milestone has the Premier pledging a brighter future.
Spring is in the air and Gladys Berejiklian is giving us a sniff of freedom. Her vision of life when we reach 70% double dose in mid-October.
You can expect to go out and have a meal, you can expect to attend a public event, you can expect to go and get services that you can't expect to have done now.
There'll still be QR codes and masks, and you'll need proof of vaccination.
Compared to what we're going through now, life will be much better at 70% double dose.
Vaccinations today hit 7 million, single doses at 69.3%. Double doses at 37.8%. It's when we reach 80%, the Premier says, we can really stretch our wings. International travel and a bonus for those flying into Sydney.
If they're double dose vaccinated, I think home quarantine is a definite. The traditional hotel quarantine system is no longer relevant when you have 80% of your population double vaccinated.
So freedom around the corner. But the Premier won't give any guarantee that the 2 million people living in the 12 LGA hotspots will get the same privileges. The Premier's new world is a bold prediction, given the numbers. 1,116 cases, 4 deaths, all women, all unvaccinated, and all had underlying health conditions. It means 100 people have now died since this wave started in June 16. 917 people are in hospital, 150 in intensive care, including a woman from Newcastle who is 24 weeks pregnant. She had been trying to get an appointment for a Pfizer jab before she tested positive.
Clearly, we understand that some people who are pregnant may have struggled to get access to Pfizer vaccine.
From Dr. Ahmed Alaroubi, a specialist working in the epicentre of the outbreak, Bankstown Hospital. He has a plea to the West and Southwest. Listen to the health experts that vaccination is safe.
Don't listen to any social media. Don't listen to any YouTube. Don't listen to any WhatsApp networking.
In Western New South Wales, there were 29 cases, 18 of them in Dubbo. COVID is now being detected in sewage in every corner of the state, places where there are known cases.
Those areas are Temora, Thredbo and Merimbula, Port Macquarie, Dunbogan, Bonny Hills, the people of Warren and Molong, and in Tamworth and Gunnedah.
And the Bondi limo driver, identified as case number 1 in this outbreak, was sprung yesterday by the Daily Telegraph for not wearing a mask at a bus stop.
Is there anything you want to say on behalf of your husband at all?
He was fined $500. Mark Burrows, 9 News.
The government's catch cry throughout the pandemic has been, we're all in this together. All talk, according to the 12 hotspot mayors in our west and southwest. They're accusing the Premier tonight of turning her back on their communities.
You could almost taste the freedom in Bondi, the beach beckoning locals working on their springtime tans. But in Burwood and Bankstown, it was a case of the lockdown blues. For disability support workers Irfan and Marjeen, the limits on recreation are taking their toll.
It is a lot of pressure, especially on my wife.
Those in the dozen hardest hit LGAs reeling emotionally and financially from the harsh lockdowns. The mayors from each hotspot had been hoping to discuss a roadmap out with the Premier, but they say they've been snubbed. Their requests for a meeting declined in an email from her office.
This is a right royal snub for our community. and the over 2 million people we all represent.
Unless there's a magical sea breeze coming from the eastern suburbs that blows the virus west, we just don't understand why people just are not being treated the same.
I've been meeting on an ongoing basis with many community leaders. I'll continue to do that.
When it comes to the 12 hotspots, it's a mixed bag. Canterbury and Bankstown skyrocketing from 110 cases 2 weeks ago to 252. Cumberland's 104 spiking to 245. Blacktown's 87 cases now up to 111, while others such as Liverpool and Campbelltown are seeing a slow but steady rise. But there are questions over Burwood's status as a hotspot. Cases have remained as low as 2 per day, and today there were 0, while the Inner West, Randwick and Ryde have seen an increase in infections.
We're now dealing with a state government that's discriminating against us because Burwood has only had a handful of cases.
And here in Bankstown, much like the other LGAs of concern, residents are understanding but say they just need some hope that the easing of restrictions is on the horizon.
Sometimes I feel really very stressed out because it's really very hard.
Ellie Walsh, 9 News.
The hotspot LGAs were up for discussion as the Premier's crisis cabinet met this afternoon. Our state politics reporter Liz Daniels is with me. Liz, could there be movement?
Well, Pete, there is certainly concern about numbers flaring up in new council areas like Randwick, Ryde and Inner West, and there are certainly questions about whether they could soon be forced under those extra hotspot restrictions. On the other hand, there's the question of whether to downgrade the status of other areas like Burwood and even parts of Bayside. It's now been 10 days since extra police powers and a curfew came into effect in the hotspots, and Pete, while I'm told the government has been briefed that the movement in those areas has decreased, the number of infections is still rising.
OK, Liz, thank you. Online shoppers are being asked for their patience over coming days, with Australia Post flagging there could be delays. Let's go live to Sophie Walsh for more. Sophie, how is the Postal Service planning to deal with this?